orbs that were supposed to last us into the expedition.
I'm gonna pull out my sword.
Okay. Well,
do you guys know any way I can get like magic put in this thing?
no, I don't.
If you were to find an artificer.
Do I?
No. Artificery is it's a rare craft.
Okay.
Creating magical items is thought to be harder than learning magic itself. Putting enchantments.
Shut the fuck up.
Is that why my intelligence is
We have the same intelligence until I'm hard
Not only do artificers
so mad.
put magic into items, they also many times create magical effects that are impossible if they didn't have the medium of an item
Okay.
to hold it.
Okay.
unfortunate?
This maxim of magic is who killed Osiris Grenmore's family.
Oh, he was very, very upset about that.
Yes. I'm actually hoping that once he concludes his business at his manor, hopefully we will have found Hector. Perhaps we can all reconvene. Now that at least he and I share a common enemy. And in this, you might be able to get your sword magicked.
By Osiris.
Yes, he's an artificer. A very skilled one.
Ooh, why didn't you tell me that when I was there with him for like 3 days?
I didn't know you wanted your sword to be magical, and also I do not think he would have agreed to it. He was in a bit of
A funk?
yes.
Yeah.
But perhaps in light of new information on who he gets to kill, he might be more open to the idea.
I'll keep that in mind.
Unless we can find an artificer here, but I don't know how likely that is.
It's kind of scary talking to him. I would rather talk to someone else, but fine. He's, well, I don't know, it's a toss-up between Dagomar. At least Dagomar said sorry to me. So I guess I'd say Osiris a little bit more
He's not usually
unapproachable.
like that. At least in my travels, for the most part. Sometimes.
Anyway,
I'm gonna look about the house.
I can assist you.
Oh.
Okay, so you roll advantage, you roll.
Guidance. Well, if I'm given advantage, then no guidance. But you, Bardic Inspiration.
Yay.
Oh, good. That was a natural one and a natural.
How long does that last?
Oh.
An hour, I believe.
But you have to use it on.
10 minutes.
Oh, it lasts 10 minutes.
20.
Might as well use it.
24.
Okay.
You have a shit ton. You can have it.
Okay. It's a natural 20.
Oh!
Plus?
30.
Guess he's finding the magic items.
What am I here for? I'm sorry, Osiris is smarter and he has better. What am I here for? Dagomars can cast 10 spells per turn. What the fuck am I here for? I don't even raise bodies
You just
anymore.
got like 5 new spells.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
The only one that can cast teleportation circle.
Oh, see, now I can be helpful.
You got
And he
You
only
can
has.
scry.
How many spell slots do you have? Yeah, he has 2 spell slots.
Yeah. He's a warlock.
It's a warlock.
You're a level 9 warlock.
Yeah, warlocks
Yeah.
just.
At
they
level
just
16, they have 3.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's because they get them on short rest. They're great for
I
dungeons,
will never.
dungeon running. Although divination wizards are better in every way.
2 spells.
But warlocks get a different spell
Slots.
list.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so you look around the house, both of you. You see the room that you're in with the iron hearth to the left of the door as you enter in, and the small dining room table that you all stood around as Vivian read the journal, along with a wire-framed back door that looks to lead out into the porch and to the large backyard speckled with great red amaranth trees within this small kitchen area. Off of this room, You find a greenhouse of sorts, though it has been far overgrown with weeds, not very taken care of, and any box gardens are long dilapidated and the soil has sort of spilled out of them. But you do find the second floor that leads up to the top, and as you enter in, it's a very small home that Rochet looked to live in, and the ceilings here are triangular. As you walk through, you sort of have to peek in with exposed beams, and you see 2 windows on either side of this room. And the wood floors creak as you go in, dust filling the air, and you smell like warm attic. There's a very distinct warm attic smell. And on either side, underneath both of the windows, are 2 separate twin-sized beds, both with chests in front of them.
Oh.
One says in what looks to be chalk on the front, Vivian. And the other one also in chalk in the same handwriting, Rochet. You.
Where are you, Dad? Dad.
Which chest are you both looking in? Vivian. Okay, so you already chose. Vivian.
Yeah.
You look in the Rochet, and you find a lot of books.
Can I be raiding the kitchen?
Yes. But I'm going to give,
Dry goods.
even though you're finding them, I'm going to give... this to you. Give this to you,
Gods, yes.
and this to you as well. And then this. Okay. Just a second.
Poison!
Yeah, just a second.
Poison!
So,
I've been waiting a year.
before we discover what else you guys find in the
Yeah.
chest, why don't you read that first?
Oh, I gotta read.
Handouts.
The Whispers of Arantuk, one of the souls of gods. There are rumors, whispers upon the wind, that there are a few gods that have perished. If this is true, it would mean many things we previously thought were not true, such as immortality of divinity and the omnipotence of the gods in general. However, it also poses some interesting questions as well, like what happens to a god's soul? Do gods have souls? What of the domain they rule over? Do they have planes or realms to themselves? What of these realms once they perish? I haven't a single answer for any of... Who is the GHT? All right. I haven't a single answer for any of these questions. However, I have a few speculative ideas on what occurs if/when a god is to pass into the clutches of mortal. So what do we know about the gods? Very little, actually, due to a variety of factors. But what we do know is that most of them were created by Arantuk, with the exception of some naughty Chaos Titans. What does that mean exactly? Well, from my perspective, it means that the gods are made from Arantuk's essence, something we aren't sure is similar to any other power of Hinduran. So, if it isn't like anything else, could this power even be recycled? No, probably not. But energy, power, and essence doesn't, at least in my view, even ever just cease to exist. Yikes. So that would mean that the power of a god, when looking at it from the perspective of continual energy, would have to continue to exist after the passing of a god. Correct. Correct. But if it can't be recycled in the same way mortal souls are, then what happens to it? Okay, I have a theory already. And therein lies my theory. I believe that gods can be created just as humans, elves, gnomes, and halflings can be created by Mortem and Terradosia. But as there is no one to shape it as Mortem supposedly does, the soul is strange, morphed, and without purpose. Now, why would I think such odd things? Well, there are a few in this world that have felt strange, nameless, and voiceless presence with them, yes, just after dying. This presence has, in some cases, supposedly brought those slain back from the dead, and in the rarest of cases, some claim to have been given divine powers by the same entity. These powers are strangely similar to that of a paladin or cleric. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. But the difference being that there is no tangible communication between hand and deity here. Not that there is much anyway, but there is at least some in the form of sounds, feelings, or visions, though not in these cases. One person had taken to calling this being the helix.
Is this invasion?
Oh my god. The helix, though for what reason I couldn't particularly say, as she died soon after coining that name. What's even more strange is that there have been multiple people to claim that this same experience, one of near death, saved by a mysterious being of no name. However, oh my gosh, however, many of them display different abilities, powers, or even disposition. So this being could then possibly reside in the realm of the gods. This would explain, at least somewhat, its lack of communication. But what form would they take then? Why only when one is close to death? Or why only when one is close to death? Well, and again, this is all speculatory. I think without the sculpting hands of Mordom, the souls collide with one another, creating a massive energy with no real form, just a combination of multiple divine consciousnesses. This would perhaps explain the differentiation in powers, and even somewhat a change in demeanor, as even those caused by gods have had rather drastic changes in personality in relation to whatever being touched their souls. Okay, then. That leaves how exactly this deity saves someone from the clutches of death. This is a single universal connecting factor in each instance. The thing each and every person touched by this deity has in common, the fact that they died. But, as far as we are aware, gods are unable to interfere in such a way beyond the divine barrier. Temple. And at this point, there's no evidence that any god has even managed to get past it. So how does this being manage? Well, I have yet another theory, a separate plane of existence that some of the dead flow through before they reach the realm of Mordom. This plane of existence, has no name as of yet. Is that where Boulder is?
That's what I thought too.
Fucking Boulder is. Has no name as of yet, and I truly have no clue as to what the nature of this supposed place could be. Why only certain souls would pass through, or why it would even why it even would exist. That just happens to be my running theory, given the information that I have at my disposal. So, in conclusion, my theory of the death of gods is this: I believe the gods form a being called the helix. That this helix is an amalgamation of the lost souls of gods unable to form a truly cohesive being. Their consciousness, goals, personalities, and demeanors still fragmented and partially separated. I also believe that this pseudo-deity connects with those who die momentarily as they pass temporarily through a place chosen or closer to where the helix resides, just before before descending into the realm of death, a purgatory, so to speak. A plane of existence no living soul has ever been. Pardon my ramblings, this is not my finest work, but with what minuscule information that I have, I believe it to be quite interesting to think about. I really don't care if you do as well. Why did you read it all then? What? Wow!
Is that signed?
GHT, it says. I have no idea who that is.
I have nothing in my notes that I know of.
Do I?
Immediately.
I
Do I
think
recognize
of
those initials?
somebody.
Absolutely.
Okay, whatever.
I mean, the only person I really know has a name that starts with a G.
Marion?
Yeah, but Ephraim doesn't know that person. What was his last name?
Yeah, but like, what the fuck is he writing a book for, bro?
He's a wizard.
Yeah, I know, but God, isn't he like the really, really old one?
Really, really old wizards would write books.
Okay. Why would Hector? I'm just confused, right? Hector, it's fine.
All right.
Hector was an necromancer.
Then read yours. All right.
Rise of Meridian, the Lord of Tristfall and survivor of humanity. Decree of Glaucon and the Elven Ring, in accordance to the Path of Humanity's Re-Education Treaty. This text is to be read by none other than those of pure Elvish descent, pure Draconic descent, or those directly emboldened by one of the above. The penalty of purposefully disobeying this decree or doing so of ignorance is the same: imprisonment and re-education. The length and severity of punishment need not be disclosed by Glaucon's decree.
What a puss. What a little puss he is.
Preface. The accounts told in this text are from multiple perspectives and may differ in accuracy. Most of the events described here took place at the end of the first age, at the beginning of the second. Whereas this was written 872 THE?
Third age of elves.
30 and 12. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Keep this in mind when referencing this text. I have spent many years studying, researching, and interviewing for information regarding what is in this book. However, due to the nature of what I write about, the accuracy may not be perfect. Regardless, there is no doubt in my mind that this is the most comprehensive look at the Dragon King's rise to power and the squashing of the Kret-Dala insurgency thousands of years.
Yo!
All my homies hate.
Table of contents. Chapter 1, the end of the Second Age. 1, the raising of the 8th tower. 2, accounts of humanity.
Oh my god.
Can I gotta.
Sorry, I've been waiting here.
2, accounts of humanity. 3, war of humanity's burden begins. Chapter 2, beginning of the Second Age. Death of demigods Messianos' brood falls. 2, the second falls. 3, the capture of Messiandos. 4, the third falls. 5, Glaucon's rise to power. 6, the death of Messiandos.
This is the whole damn thing.
Chapter 3.
This is a whole history book in 10 pages.
Chapter 3, loose ends. The repercussions, conclusions. Chapter 1. It is important that we begin where many believe the course of history was forever altered, the raising of the 8th tower. The 8th tower is infrequently discussed in Elvish circles and never discussed in human ones. This is because the 8th tower was one of necromancy. The tower was dedicated to the teaching and learning of necromantic powers in academia. It is considered by many to be a pinnacle of hubris within both humanity and the dragons of the south. The elves of Terradocia, Amdaron, and even the Erelundai Drow were against such a tower and were most certainly against such magic. Necromancy was new, only rearing its ugly head a few hundred years prior, and the terms necromancer and lich were words but with no meaning. Humanity was attracted to necromancy for obvious reasons: the draw to power over life itself and the promise of longer, possibly immortal life. What human wouldn't grasp at the opportunity to live even a fraction of the time an elf does? Though dragons were a different story. Messiandos was powerful, incredibly so, and burdened with immense empathy, particularly for humanity. Messiandos was a dragon?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
She was
Oh,
Glaucon's mother.
oh, that's... okay. Okay.
You just got it. Yeah.
She was frequently quoted as feeling sorry for the human race and wanting to uplift them. This begs the question, though. Why would she let humanity practice such destructive magic, then? The answer is just as unsatisfying as one might expect from such a ridiculous question. She wasn't smart enough to recognize the danger of it. Messiandos was unaware of the desperate balance the world needed to maintain, a balance severely disrupted by humanity. And at this point, dragons as well. Dragons are an interesting species as they are so painfully aware of how powerful they are, and yet so willing to use it to whatever means they deem necessary. Some are like Messiandos, seeking to spread this power to all those around her, which in some ways is admirable and in others not. You see, power belongs to those that know how to use it, though most certainly that is not always the case, this being one of them.
Wait, just a second.
Yeah.
Any guesses to what species wrote
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. The eyebrows start going up like right about now.
It's too stupid.
now that makes extra sense why the elves don't like Glaucon.
Yep.
They're fucking likening the dragons to humanity. Fucking.
Humanity was not granted the power over death by a being that was deserving of that power. And thus, much of their power stems from this falsehood and should be scrutinized as much as possible.
Pussy.
Messianos' fatal mistake was assuming humanity was intelligent, wise, and empathetic enough to control their own lives. Sorry.
Yikes.
Messianos failed, and thus necromancy penetrated the minds of humanity, dwarven kind, halfling kind, dragon kind, gnome kind. From this point further, necromancy has remained a scourge upon the land, a stain that won't leave from the sheets of life. The bed was made, and the dragon slept in it. Before I discuss the war that followed the raising of the tower, there are several accounts from humans that were captured from Kret-Dala during this time. Many claimed to have been feeling quite ill. Some claimed that their food tasted differently mid-meal, and others swore they heard whispers in the wind. The most damning evidence of humanity's slow slip into insanity was from one Thonian Caskbow. He claimed that a vision of an old man had promised him power and had been whispering into his ear, only to fade into nothing upon the threat of being known by anyone else. The War of Humanity's burden began in 1624 First Age of Elves, the final year of that age. It began soon after Thanian Cascbow and Felonius Cromast assassinated Lady Hairless Quell Anemedune.
Wow, that's a name.
Hurlius Quell Anemedune.
Oh, you're right. The previous queen?
The first queen of Tiliamon Diligence.
Yeah.
How exactly this took place is a mystery to this day. The humans claimed this was their doing, and very quickly declared themselves the new ruler of the continent, whose first decree was the exile of Missy Yandos and her brood. Okay. Yeah, okay. Chapter 2. The war spanned only a few hundred miles within Cret de la and the western coast of both the southwestern portion of the Central Realms and the northwestern portion of the Southern Realms. Humanity appeared to lose most, if not all, battles that took place, being annihilated by Glaucon and Tereshai Meridian swiftly. However, in the morning of January 14th, in the second year of the Second Age of Elves, Terashi was slain and his head severed from his body. The lifeless head paraded through the streets of Cret de la. Some reports state they feasted upon his flesh, others claim it was unceremoniously pushed into the ocean, and most state his head was impaled at the gates of the city, after which his body was risen by necromancy.
Headless dragon.
Regardless of what his fate after death may have been, it is a mystery as to how he died. A young blue dragon slain by the likes of humanity? The war raged for 3 more years at a relative stalemate. Cret de la going untouched during this time for reasons unknown. Which brings me to something that needs to be touched on. No one knows why the dragons didn't assault Cret de la during this time. This is made especially poignant when considering that Missy Yandos was considered an ancient dragon at this point. Nonetheless, humanity persisted in their assault on the Southern Realms settlements near Merchant's Rest and Cret de la. They did so by using the bodies of those slain in battle, utilizing necromancy to its fullest extent. Hundreds of undying and unburdened soldiers who didn't feel pain, happiness, nor empathy. All they knew and committed to was war. During this time, the elves were crippled in their lack of leadership, squabbling amongst themselves and struggling to maintain a semblance of regality. This was the first time an elven leader had been murdered. The realms were unsure how to react, and there were murmurs among other species that perhaps this was a good time to seize some of the power for themselves. This squabble for power was squashed summarily once the second child of Missy Yandos, Alkaios, was killed at a battle not too far from Cret de la in the 5th year of the Second Age. Missy Yandos, now fully enraged, flew swiftly to face humanity head-on and went missing shortly afterwards, supposedly captured by humanity. After Missy Yandos went missing, it wasn't too long afterwards in which Democritus, the youngest of the brood of Missy Yandos, accompanied by Glaucon, besieged Cret de la. The siege of Cret de la lasted 1 year. The mountains surrounding the area and the small bridge being the only connecting structure to the city itself made it difficult to assault, even with the flight, which the 2 remaining dragons were wary to utilize. The power of necromancy assisted in their defense in more ways than expected. The ability to replenish forces from their fallen as well as Glaucon's made it almost impossible to fulfill a battle of attrition. It was within the Battle of June's last day, which took place on June 1st in the 6th year of the Second Age of Elves, that many believe to be the breaking moment in Glaucon's mind. Early in the morning of June 1st, soldiers of Felonius Cromast ambushed the encampment of the Brood's forces. The accounts of said battle are hazy at best, though the most common thread between all of them was Felonius himself erupting red lightning from his hands, obliterating the encampment in mere minutes. Many accounts recall he laughed maniacally as he killed hundreds in moments. Democritus attempted to assail Felonius as he let loose his strange power upon their men and women, though Felonius had apparently set a trap for the dragon, and necromancers, and had been laying in wait nearby, crippling the dragon with necromantic magics as he arrived and allowing the warband to slay the dragon with ease. According to Glaucon himself, that is where it ended. However, others claimed the Chromas necromancers rose the body of Democritus and utilized him throughout the rest of the war, much like the accounts related to Jirachi. Glaucon was known to be the most reckless, a force of power even before his mind was broken, and considered the most militaristically intelligent of the brood. His anger was all that was left once his family died, and this was felt in the years following, is it Democritus? Yeah, Democritus. Democritus' death. He rained fury down upon his enemies, accounts of him scorching villages not known to align themselves with either the Chromast or Cascable forces, claiming, if any human is to be left alive, any other, it shall be to live under my foot. This world has suffered them plenty long enough, and if a human lives, it is a life that mortar misplaced, and it is more deservedly funneled elsewhere, such as worms. I shall punish any human I see fit, though surely, if I had it my way, they would all die. I shall let them watch as their brothers and sisters burn, whilst they hide in their mountain city. Glaucon Meridian in a speech to his people in Tristfall, many of
God,
them
to the people.
many of them human.
What a cocksucker,
Doesn't give
dude.
a fuck.
God, and everyone's like,
In year 9 of the Second Age of Elves, Glaucon claimed the throne of the Southern Realms and claimed dominion of humanity and their punishments. It is around the same time the High Elven forces of the Central Realms rallied behind a new leader, Lady Verisul Dwemdon? Yeah. Our current queen. Okay. It was at the same time that Queen Dwemdon of the Central Realms offered her assistance in squashing the human insurrection of March of Year 9. In March of Year 9. Glaucon agreed and thus began the end to the war. It is important to note that during this time, accounts from within the city of Cret-de-la state that Felonius was slipping, exclaiming that he felt the pain of those outside the walls and had a lingering soul ache that called to him each time Glaucon destroyed another human settlement, and that he was beginning to feel guilty and responsible for all those lives lost to such a beast. This apparently led to his call to duel Glaucon in single combat, to which Glaucon refused, stating,
What up?
pussy! Pussy!
What up, bitch?
Pussy! It's because he knew what would happen. Titus Mirkwood. Puss!
stating, I do not believe for 1 second the words that come from a human's mouth. For all I know, single combat is for him is me against a singular battalion of mages in the wings. He will die unceremoniously, as will all his filthy companions. It was on December 5th that the Battle of Humans Coil took place. It lasted 3 hours. The combined forces of the High Elves with the unbelievable might of Glaucon's rage were insurmountable for the human forces, regardless of necromancy. Felonius and Thonian were captured, tortured, and executed by hanging within Cret-de-la. Their bodies left to hang for decades until their bones were stolen.
Stolen?
Stolen. The repercussions...
Yeah, I thought Thonian and Felonius might be some of the liches. I guess not.
Their bones were stolen.
Yeah, but they weren't wizards, though.
But their bones
Yeah, but their bones were stolen and the humans... necromancy?
Yeah, but they can raise it, but that doesn't make it a lich.
Anyway, go on.
Sorry.
The repercussions of such an engagement were far-reaching. Many of those within Adamos were shocked by the volatility of Glaucon, many condemning his actions as war crimes and stating their distrust for someone so willing to so openly suggest genocide.
Oh.
Many now feared him, and this expedited the emigration of the Erlendi from Tristfall to Cruel. Shuttered any standing army he once had, as much of it consisted of humans, and destroyed Tristfall's relationship with the dwarves, and any of the species connected, such as gnomes and halflings. Wood elves, Erlendi, and many of the high elves. In addition to that. Glaucon seemed uninterested, regardless claiming his self-proclaimed title to Jailer of Humanity, and ignoring the pleas from any nation for many hundreds of years, focusing primarily on his goal of subjugating humankind. Those of Adamos were filled with hate towards humanity for killing the prior lady of the elves, though those same peoples were those with far more empathy than that of Glaucon, and were far less willing to sentence an entire species to death because of the actions of a few. Glaucon's logic confused many, as the only reason this war raged was at the expense of human lives loyal to himself. Glaucon's rule officially began in 11 Second Age of Elves, and in his first speech, he announced the death of his mother, claiming to have seen her die before his own eyes, and reassuring the world that his justice was delivered swiftly. At the same time, as punishment for their indiscretions, humanity was punished by many of the races of Adamos. In 13th of the Second Age of Elves, the Wood Elves forbade humans from crossing into the forests of Amdaron. And in 14, the Second Age of Elves, the Dwarves of the Spine forbade humanity from crossing the Thandonlir threshold. Wow. Curiously, the 8th power stood for 600 more years until it was collapsed in the year 634 Second Age of Elves. Again, not much is known about why exactly it was taught for so long after the war had ended. It is thought that perhaps Glaucon did not recognize the true power of necromancy and was unaware of how pivotal it actually was in the war. Though many assume it was allowed as a slight towards the elves, whom he blamed partially for his mother's capture and death, stating, "The elves are far too concerned about balance, their dear god, or their dead rulers. What of my mother? What of my brothers? Need I weep for nearly a decade while these humans ravage all life around them? What balance do you truly speak of? Wise is what they claim to be, though I dare say this is but a thin veil for their cowardice. What better to say when one is scared to hurtle into the throes of war than to claim they are all ill-prepared, or that it is unwise to do so? For who can argue with the illustrious and wise elves? Certainly not my people, who gave you wisdom of magic, wisdom of technology, and reigned in humanity for an era. I needn't call you on again, for there shall be no issues to speak of under my rule." Much of history, and the history that...
I kind of fuck with that Glaucon. I like the speech Glaucon, not the new one.
Much of this history, and the history that follows, is now censored from humanity, and even some Dwarven and Wood Elven peoples. Some have called to question what the repercussions of that may be, though it is hard to say. Personally, I shall not speak on it either way, though my next written works shall be upon the residual effects and consequences of Glaucon's hubris, and allowing necromancy to spread like a plague for so long for such petty squabbles. Until then, may Hera bless you, and may Pontus glide upon your heels.
Hera, not Hemera. Oh. Curious. Wow.
That Glaucon is kind of cool. A little bit. I like him. I like it when he gives the speeches.
Okay. Now
One step closer?
Yes.
Okay. One step deeper, power beyond the gods, a gift given to few by Serapis Brystone. The fundamentals. The fundamentals of magic.
By the way, I will say, since you just finished reading it, Brystone was one of the names Rochet claimed to see on the Maxim memory that he had from Baldric.
Ooh. Fuck.
Hello.
Ooh.
The fundamentals. The fundamentals of magic include the concept of deeper levels of magic. These are very typically taught simplistically, i.e. first, second, third, and so on levels of magic. In actuality, it is theorized that when a magic user gets more powerful, they are able to dive deeper into the depths of Hecate's pool of magic, granting them richer and more potent forms of arcane usage. This is entirely theoretical, as no one has ever seen the pools of Hecate, at least to our knowledge, and thus we are only capable of theorizing from observational research, as well as anecdotal evidence from various powerful sages and sorcerers. Asterisk. The mention of any sorcerers was done so out of a need for contextualization. It was not done so out of any praise or admiration for those who would so willfully disobey the will of the king. Any sorcerer mentioned was known only from other historic works and was not known from any personal work-related or executive relationship to the writer or any acquaintance to them. Long live Glaucon Meridian and blessed be the justice of Bahamut. From a Maxim member.
You just say sorcerer and you have to just like
Asterisk.
add 5-line text.
Yeah. Anecdotally, many wizards and witches have claimed to have experienced a sensation of drowning as they progress further into the depths of magic, feeling as if their power may overwhelm them, feeling this sensation lift only after releasing the spell. This may well be a placebo effect. After all, these wizards are taught, at least in passing, the phrase deeper into Hecate's pool when referencing power. However, there have been sorcerers, asterisk, with no prior training that claim to have experienced the same sensation when casting at the higher or deeper levels of magic. Observationally, we have seen a common trait among those in the midst of casting spells of a higher potency. Their hair, clothes, and jewelry floats as if submerged in water in the moments before letting the spell or incantation loose. Sexy! As well as this, we have observed certain spellcasters engaged with higher arcana gag and spit, as if expelling excess fluid from their lungs, though none of the substance can be seen exiting their body. This in particular is rather interesting when considering the existence of the divine barrier. Are the minds, souls, or consciousnesses of these sages being transported into this so-called pool of Hecate? Or is this a trick of the mind? Honestly, it could be either one. The power of the arcane is immense, and our knowledge of it is incredibly limited, making work such as this even more important in furthering our growth alongside the use of magic. The depths of magic. The depths of magic, or the levels at which a spell is cast, are frequently described on a scale from 0 to 9 linearly. This is done to adequately describe the amount of power used in the casting of the spell, which in turn allows for the teaching of spells in a more streamlined, linear manner. 0, in this case, are the class of spells known as cantrips, and are thought to be the least powerful of any school of spell, which is true, but only if one is looking at the amount of power used to cast and not the power of output by the same spell. An excellent example of a spell that requires more power input from the user than it outputs in return is the spell Seeming, within the Illusion School of Magic. On its face, it is quite simply a slightly more potent disguised self, which is cast a single layer deep into Hecate's pool, whereas Seeming is cast 4 levels deeper than that at the 5th layer. This is a massive jump in power, and one most spell users will never obtain for such a, comparatively to the increase in power used, small increase in potency. Therefore, when discussing the power of spells, it refers more to the power input of the spellcaster rather than the spell itself. And this in turn can be translated instead to how deep the caster must dive into the pools of Hecate in order to cast said spell. This can be confusing at first, though when one begins to learn how to cast spells, this concept becomes incredibly clear. I would argue this is due to our inherent inability to adequately use magic as a power source, therefore we waste much of its power when using it. More on that later. This lineality does not necessarily work, however, when speaking of those whose power is granted not from knowledge or misfortune, but is instead granted by the gods themselves. Paladins, clerics, those called warlocks, and some sorcerers at first glance are disconnected from Hecate, and therefore it would seem the linear 0 to 9 classification system of magical power doesn't apply to these select few. But I would disagree. I believe the gods themselves utilize Hecate's power, that all magic is derived from the same place, and that divine magics are often akin to the schools of magic used by the mortals of our realms. This claim is made more legitimate in my eyes by the creation of all other schools of magic. Throughout all of history, different schools have been created. Abjuration and evocation, thought to be the first ever created, followed by the other 6, asterisk, as time passed. Therefore, pure magic exists, and it is through our own design that it is shaped into different forms, as if every spellcaster were weaving magic into different shapes and sizes as a tailor might with a spool of thread. However, I would then claim that there are 2 forms of magic that mortals have yet to tap into entirely: life and pure magic, and that the 9th level of magic is at the level of the divine, and there is one level further.
Ooh.
Forgotten power. You might ask, 2 entirely different forms of magic. Yes, and no, I do not mean schools of magic, I mean forms. But what is it I am truly saying when I say forms instead of schools? Well, I theorize that the schools of magic we have been taught actually diminish the true power of magic. That each school is simply a method of filtering a comparatively small amount of power and molding it into a form that our mortal bodies can adequately siphon from the pools of Hecate. This filter, as I called it, is filtering my theorized pure magic of Hecate and turning it into the spells that we know of, our knowledge of the different schools of magic, and one's individual power to withstand the depths of Hecate's pool, dictating the amount of this pure magic we are able to filter at once. What of the second claim I made? The existence of a life magic. Well, this theory is far less stable, as I struggle to find anything in the history I have access to corroborate it. Regardless of this, though, I still believe the theory to be correct due to this bit of knowledge alone. Varentuk created elven, dwarven, human, halfling, and so on forms of life and breathed essence into the gods themselves, including Hecate. This means there was a power akin to magic before the creation of Hecate and her pools of magic, and this power created magic as we know it, meaning it was at an essential level different than that of the magical power of Hecate, or held some form of power that Hecate's magic does not. And no, I do not believe this life power is akin in any way to that of necromancy, asterisk. Okay, hold on, there's the first asterisk. The first asterisk was, six schools of magic. I mentioned 8 schools of magic simply to avoid confusion, and I do not in any way condone the use of necromancy, was the first asterisk. The second, necromancy is merely used comparatively. Again, I do not in any way condone its study or use under any circumstance.
Gotta protect your neck.
And no, I do not believe this life power is akin in any way to that of necromancy, though I must confess that I haven't a clue as to the nature of necromancy, nor do I have any theory on the source of its power, as it shares none of the traits of the other schools of arcane. Bullshit. Dope. A level deeper. So, you said he was on the Maxim list, right?
Go on.
Anyway. So what is this level deeper, as mentioned in the title of this book? And why did I mention that I believe the 9th level deep into Hecate's pool is that of divine power? Well, simply put, I believe that there are few who have the potential to use magic at a level beyond the 9th level, a level beyond that of the gods, a level one may be inclined to say is the 10th. However, in a study of ancient Drowish, asterisk, God damn this guy and his fucking... I have never, nor will I ever associate with the Drow, nor do I subscribe to any of their heretical teachings. The writings of this species is simply to give context to a name of my own design, nothing more.
Poor guy.
However, in a study of ancient Drowish writings found by the Southern Archaeological Guild in the middle of the 3rd Age of Elves...
Middle, not the end.
I don't know what the middle is. Are we in the end?
No, you guys are just not in the middle.
No, you're right, sorry. I'm dumb-brained. They claimed that at the bottom of the pools of magic one may find Hecate herself. Oh gosh. One may find Hecate herself resting in a nearly eternal slumber, some going as far as to call her the drowning goddess of the moon. I say nearly because they, the Drow, also suggest that some have gone so deep into the pools of Hecate that they nearly awoke the goddess of magic, which is precisely why I believe instead of being referred to as the 10th level, these particular bouts of magic are instead cast at the pure awoken level of magic, the nearest mortals can come to the use of pure magic's power. I said previously that very few magic users are able to cast at a level 5 levels deep into the pools of Hecate, so one may ask who in the world would be able to cast a spell at a level higher than the gods themselves. Well, the only recorded use of magic that potent I could find by any mortal being was the creation of the Dragon's Rage Canyons. This is, of course, based entirely off of hearsay, but it makes a lot of sense considering the theorized age of the canyons is no more than 1,500 years, a time where no gods that we know of were present on this mortal plane. What of life magic then? Well, to the best of my knowledge, no one has ever managed to tap into this power, not even the gods themselves. But I would guess that anything crafted from this power would be far more potent than that of any power derived from Hecate's pools of magic. I would go as far as to say that the linearity of magic as we know it, derived from Hecate, wouldn't apply, and that each and every usage of it could even be akin to this pure awoken level of magic I just spoke of. Doesn't soul transmutation not access Hecate's pool?
It's a new form of school of magic,
Neither
but
does
it's
necromancy,
transmutation.
right?
Necromancy doesn't as well, right?
It does in a way.
Like
you
a
use a
backdoor.
bit of transmutation to form.
Or to fuck
the
it up a
soul.
little bit?
Yeah, but the
Make it
majority of the
stinky.
power comes from the soul itself.
Conclusions. There is much we don't know about magic. Why we're able to use it through the divine barrier, why it was created with the gods, what the extent of its power is, if any more schools of magic could be created, and what the origin of necromancy truly is. But we know more than we did even last week, and our knowledge will continue to grow as time passes, hopefully leading to an absolute answer to all of these lingering mysteries of life. So do not give up on the hope of discovery, of knowledge, for what purpose do we have for learning than to seek more? What purpose do our eyes hold, other than for discovery itself? And remember, only the truly wicked deny the power of discovery. We are but saints then, for we have the will to discover all. I've seen
Some
that before.
necromancy
No,
shit.
wait, I've seen that.
You have. It was on the door to the dwarven necromancer's lair.
Yeah, that's some necromantic shit.
Maximum magic! There's a final page. With different font. Decree of Glaucon in the Elven Ring. In accordance to the Path of Humanity's Re-Education Treaty, this text is read by none of the bureaucracists.
Yeah.
You put it in the back this time, like,
Contraband!
you're not supposed to know that shit.
You know.
Gotcha. That's Glaucon's face, like,
Yeah.
fucked up.
Now this one?
Just read the first bits.
What's it called?
The conversion of life and death. Poisons. Instruments of Persephone. Guess who has proficiency with a poisoner's kit? It's me. Decree of Glaucon in the Elven Ring.
Yep.
Preface. Many people assume that poison is a woman's weapon because women are meek and refuse to confront things head on. What the fuck is this? However, have these people stopped to think about the people women may want to poison? Abusive men, rapists, among others. Let's poison Ashton. The point is, Persephone gifted all those without the means of physical defense a means of defense. Yet this is deemed evil. Interestingly, by the most powerful being on the continent, Curious. Use this book to your heart's desire. Burn a path through those who would harm you, and do it without anyone being the wiser. Sexy!
Who wrote this shit? Oh. You can't arrest me if you don't know.
The art of poison making is a strange one of the few weapons that one does not see the impact it has, typically unless one is working with a potent poison, of which there are many. Poisons are the antithesis of potions, and what many believe to be the greatest sin of alchemy, necromantic rituals excluded. However, I believe poisons have an integral place within life. What is a smaller creature to do against a larger one that threatens their life? Love them harder? Praise Varntuk for this blessed life? No, you defend yourself. And with what do you do this? Poison, of course. This book will teach you the ways in which you can apply alchemy to create poisons of varying potency and effect. It is best you are not seen reading this book in the company of elven folk, as they seem to take offense to humans gaining any semblance of power.
Why? Literally no reason.
Chapter 1. Beginnings. Poison came about, at first within the Age of Titans, though due to our current state of political affairs, I am not privy to the exact history surrounding its creation. All I know is that Persephone's echo speaks to me of poisons, and I'll be damned if I don't listen. The most important steps to learning something is the basics. The same can be said for any form of alchemy, especially poisons. Everyone knows poisons are dangerous, by definition they are. However, poisons can also be incredibly dangerous to make. When making poisons, always take care to take the necessary safety precautions, which I have not detailed because I feel as if much of it is common sense. Just take care, as the poison is for defense, not for you to harm yourself.
No taste testing.
Yeah.
And then there are recipes.
And then there are recipes. Apple seeds, spit, garlic, water. I can do these things. Concubine's Cure. I don't know what that is. Damn. The Ticklish Jester. I want to read some of the Ticklish Jester. The Longest Rattle. Long Con Poison is what it's called.
That's pretty
Long
good.
Con Poison. Ooh. Sorry. Long Con Poison. Chronic Wand Dysfunction.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm gonna fuck Vesuvius up so hard, you guys. I'm gonna destroy this man. I'm gonna hurt him so much. He's gonna die.
Oh, I'm gonna hurt him so bad he will die.
And there is quite a large lore dump for all of you to digest.
Tuck that into my bag.
The
Wow.
helix, huh?
Yeah.
The helix.
I want to ask if it's Fae or Eupheme, but you're both warlocks, so.
You asked who what the last name of Gumarian was. You did know what it was.
Oh,
I don't know.
If you want to roll an intelligence check.
let me first check my notes,
Okay.
and then I will roll an intelligence check if I'm a bad note taker.
Frost.
Gumarian.
Weld.
Frostwell.
Frostwell?
Child of Gamarian. Wow.
You don't have it. Okay. Roll an intelligence check.
I have it written down in my old notebook.
Yeah.
Written by hand.
Yeah.
I wrote it with my hand.
Like a boomer.
Yeah.
Eee! Wow, almost a natural 1, but still not very good. 13.
Okay. I'll say history can be used.
14.
Okay. The last name was Hell Terrain.
Held dream.
By Gamarian himself.
What did I see?
Can I just look?
20 intelligence.
Take a... Are you calling me stupid?
Oh, Siren.
Just
that
not
was Siren.
as intelligent.
Calling me stupid.
Oh, Siren was the one that knew who Gamarian was.
Who is Gamarian?
Some big dick wizard.
Okay.
He's a lich. He's like the lich. He's
Allegedly.
the big dick lich.
Allegedly.
Lich. We found a thing.
If you want to roll a history check on...
Oh,
No,
anything
none of
I
you would know
know
this.
would be
None
from
of you would know
story.
it. None of you
Damn.
would know. Sorry.
I know that didn't we say like, didn't we say he was the guy who fought Glaucon on Heroes Peak?
No, that was Mandoff.
That was me.
Oh, Manda.
Yeah.
We don't know fucking anything about Gamarian.
Oh, I remember because we were in Cruel when yeah, and they like
Describe
leader of
Cruel.
the Liches. That
Yep.
yeah. Okay, I was thinking of.
He was the leader
I
of the
think it was
liches,
Mandoff.
and then oh fuck, what else did
And then just
the leech that we found,
Yeah, Child of.
Child of Gamarian.
Child of
But
Gamarian.
that was with the cult. That was with the cult of Malignance guy. We also don't know.
You don't know anything about
You know
Gandalf,
what? You
don't
know what?
anything about
Can I just say
Gamarian.
really quick how much I was freaked out that I accidentally let loose the Child of Gamarian in the middle of the Towers of the Seven
You just
when
gave
they're
him to
fucking
Preservius.
necromancers the entire time.
You just gave him to
Yeah.
Preservius. Yeah.
Yep. Which, if we roll back the tape, Osiris was like, maybe don't do that. He was. But hey.
Did you want to carry the growing leech around? I didn't want to carry
I
the
would've
growing
done
leech
something
around.
with it.
Yeah,
We
wait,
tried
you
to
tried,
kill
you
it
chopped
and it
up,
just split into different
We didn't try to
little...
burn it.
That didn't work well for the other gelatinous thing we tried to burn.
The cube?
Faye.
Phase gelatinous?
Yeah, he was,
Oh my god.
yeah, he was all gooey. When he
No,
was, when
he
was
just
dead,
had a smooth
he looked
face.
like, no, you said he was like jelly.
No, I said
You
that
said he was squishy.
That's what happens to skin when you burn it, dude.
No, that's not what you were talking about. That he was like kind of translucent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
his
it's
skin is
translucent.
translucent. It
It's
does not
translucent.
mean gooey.
Yeah. He was a changeling.
Did you just compare my boy to a leech?
Oh my goodness.
No, you compared his corpse
Slander.
to a leech.
My man is just now
You know
getting
what?
some Faye backstory.
I'm just gonna
here.
shut up. I just haven't said anything right today for what happened to me.
You just now got what his god might have been.
Don't look at
This
me.
whole time.
Yeah.
I thought he was leech-like.
No, I thought it was squishy, like jelly. Like you know when you
You thought his ass was boo?
No.
Yeah,
His
but
ass
I was about to say it was
Majin
boo.
Buu.
Stop
yeah.
talking about Dragon Ball Z. Stop it. I don't know what you're talking about. God damn it. I thought so no listen, so you
No,
know
No, she thought he was Bob from Monsters Inc., bro.
Oh, true.
Listen to me. So you know when you dissolve bones in acid and there's a certain point where they get really bendy?
You
That's
thought
what I
he
thought
was
he was.
No, I don't.
Wait, nobody's ever done that. Nobody here's ever done that.
I've never done it.
I know what you're talking about. It's because it saps the calcium out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about
And
like
it
Harry
is-
Potter bones.
No, I'm not. It's an actual science.
That was Harry
No,
Potter.
it's an actual scientific.
No,
I've
I
seen-
know, but I'm saying that
Not
that's
making
what
it
happens
worse
with
on
the
the
bones.
No, then that in the thing they removed his bones.
Well, yeah.
because- sure, whatever.
Yeah, like that.
They
You're
did that.
incorrect button.
I'm gonna stop talking. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Here's
Oh,
another
man.
people.
Every time. They burnt his corpse, by the way, just so you know.
We were
After
trying,
he got eaten by bears?
he didn't get eaten, and we thought that maybe if they found a changeling, that I I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway, yes, he got some face.
I'm
He got
sorry,
some
I don't know
face
why we
off.
did it.
That's
I
good.
don't
That's
remember.
good. That's nice.
He got some face off.